I want you to imagine this: a single malfunctioning sensor, a cascade of decisions made behind closed doors, and in a matter of minutes, nearly 200 lives lost. The recent air crash in Pennsylvania make me recall this disaster. Hi, I'm NJ from Freak Files, and today I'm pulling back the curtain on one of aviation's most jaw-dropping disasters, the Boeing 737 MAX catastrophe. In the next hour plus, you'll journey with me through a tale of ambition, corporate pressure, tragic oversight, and a relentless quest for profit that changed the skies forever. Always been fascinated by the wonder of flight. Growing up surrounded by old schematics, test equipment, and stories from my father's career in aerospace, I learned early on that airplanes are more than just metal and engines. They're marvels of engineering that embody our dreams of soaring above it all. But as I grew older, I also discovered a darker side. A side where the marvels of technology can hide fatal flaws. Today, I'm not merely recounting a sequence of events. I'm inviting you to experience the tension, the mystery, and the heart-wrenching decisions that led to the downfall of Boeing's flagship, the 737 MAX. Imagine sitting in a cockpit where every instrument tells you one thing, but behind the scenes, a hidden system is working relentlessly against you. That is the chilling reality we're about to explore. Let's rewind the clock and set the stage. Boeing's story is one of audacity and innovation. Born during the tumultuous days of World War I, Boeing evolved from a modest airplane manufacturer into a global titan. By the 1960s, the Boeing 737 had firmly established itself as the workhorse of the skies, a plane that revolutionized short-haul travel. Its design was robust, its reliability proven over decades, and it became a symbol of American ingenuity. However, the aviation world is relentless. As the years rolled on, a formidable rival emerged in the form of Airbus. With its A320 series, Airbus introduced advanced fly-by-wire technology and a promise of greater efficiency, shaking the very foundations of Boeing's long-standing dominance. Faced with this new competition, Boeing had to make a choice. Should they start from scratch with an entirely new design or modify an existing, proven platform? The decision was made to re-engineer the classic 737, giving birth to the 737 MAX, a plane that was meant to be a marvel of modern efficiency while still being familiar to pilots. In boardrooms shrouded in secrecy, engineers and executives weighed the risks and benefits. The idea was deceptively simple: install larger, more fuel-efficient engines on the proven 737 airframe. This would save time, money, and crucially, reduce the need for expensive pilot retraining. But as we'll soon see, what seemed like a smart shortcut would come with unforeseen consequences that would alter the course of aviation history. To truly grasp the disaster that would follow, we need to examine the anatomy of the 737 MAX and the controversial decisions that led to its design. When Boeing opted to fit the 737 with larger engines, the entire aerodynamic balance of the aircraft shifted. These new engines, while marvels of efficiency, were heavier and mounted further forward and higher than their predecessors. This alteration caused the nose of the aircraft to pitch up under certain conditions, a dangerous trait that pilots simply could not ignore. Enter the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, or MCAS. I still get chills thinking about it. A software system secretly embedded in the flight control computer, designed to automatically push the nose of the plane down if it detected an imminent stall. But here's the twist. MCAS relied on data from just a single angle of attack sensor. In an industry where redundancy is paramount, using a single point of failure for such a critical safety function was, in hindsight, a catastrophic gamble. I find it hard to believe that in an era boasting multiple layers of safety, a system so crucial would depend on one sensor alone. This decision was driven by a desire to minimize costs and sidestep the extensive retraining of pilots, ensuring that the 737 MAX could be quickly certified and delivered to airlines without major additional expenses. What followed was a series of events that would eventually shock the world and lead to unspeakable loss. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 took off from Jakarta with 189 souls aboard, each one trusting that the marvel of modern aviation would safely carry them to their destination. Moments after takeoff, something went horribly wrong. The MCAS, misled by a faulty sensor reading, activated repeatedly, forcing the plane's nose into a relentless dive. I can almost hear the frantic shouts in the cockpit as the pilots struggled to wrest control of an aircraft that seemed to have a will of its own. Despite desperate maneuvers and all their training, the plane spiraled downward, crashing into the sea and claiming every life on board. Barely 5 months later, on March 10, 2019, a similar tragedy unfolded with Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. This flight, operating a 737 MAX 8, much like its ill-fated predecessor, encountered the same mysterious and deadly behavior shortly after takeoff. Experienced pilots with thousands of hours in the air found themselves battling an automated system that would not relent. The MCAS activated once again, driven by erroneous sensor data, and despite attempts to disable it, the aircraft plummeted within minutes. The resulting crash was as sudden as it was devastating, marking the second fatal blow in what would become a worldwide crisis of confidence. In both flights, the identical pattern was chillingly clear. A single sensor failure triggered a cascade of events that no amount of pilot skill could overcome. The tragic irony is that these airplanes were some of the newest and most advanced in the world, yet they were undone by a flaw that should have been caught long before these fateful flights. In the wake of these disasters, the public and regulators demanded answers. What was happening behind the scenes at Boeing? How could such a sophisticated aircraft harbor a fatal flaw? As investigators dug into the wreckage, it became painfully clear that a series of oversights and deliberate decisions conspired to create this tragedy. Documents and internal communications revealed that Boeing had not been entirely forthcoming about the capabilities and limitations of MCAS. Test pilots had raised concerns, and engineers had flagged the reliance on a single sensor. Yet, in a bid to fast-track certification and avoid the high costs of additional simulator training, critical details about MCAS were downplayed, even omitted from pilot manuals. This omission wasn't just a minor oversight, it was a systemic failure that left pilots unaware of the potential for the system to engage unexpectedly. The regulatory process itself came under intense scrutiny. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, entrusted with ensuring the safety of the skies, had delegated significant portions of the certification process to Boeing through a program known as Organization Designation Authorization, ODA. This self-certification meant that the very company designing the aircraft was also responsible for vouching for its safety, a conflict of interest that would later be exposed as a grave misjudgment. I can't help but feel a profound sense of injustice when I consider that these decisions were made behind closed doors, shielded from public view until it was too late. Every red flag that was ignored, every warning that was swept aside, came together to create a perfect storm of failure, a failure that cost lives and shattered public trust. Behind the sleek exterior of the 737 MAX lay a complex web of corporate ambition and financial pressures. Boeing was in a race against Airbus to capture the market for fuel-efficient short-haul aircraft. This competition wasn't just about market share. It was about survival in an industry where billions of dollars and the livelihoods of thousands of employees hung in the balance. Executives at Boeing faced a dilemma: delay the launch of the MAX to incorporate additional safety measures and incur massive costs, or push the aircraft to market as it was, with the hope that any issues could be managed through pilot training and minor adjustments. The decision was made to prioritize speed and cost saving. By using the existing 737 design as a basis, Boeing could avoid the lengthy and expensive process of developing an entirely new airplane. But in doing so, they compromised on safety. I want you to picture the high-stakes boardroom discussions where these decisions were made. Imagine the tension as executives debated whether to reveal the full capabilities and limitations of MCAS. The result was a deliberate downplaying of the system's role, a calculated move to keep retraining costs low and delivery schedules on track. This wasn't just poor judgment, it was an ethical breach of the highest order. As the tragedies unfolded, it became painfully clear that the drive for profit had overshadowed the fundamental responsibility to protect human life. Families were left shattered, and the global aviation community was forced to confront a harsh reality. When the pursuit of market dominance takes precedence over safety, the consequences can be catastrophic. The legal fallout from the 737 MAX disasters was swift and far-reaching. In the months following the crashes, investigations not only uncovered the technical and regulatory failures, but also exposed a disturbing pattern of corporate secrecy and mismanagement. In a criminal fraud conspiracy case, Boeing was charged with concealing vital information from the FAA, a revelation that shook the very foundations of corporate accountability in aviation. During tense congressional hearings, top Boeing executives were grilled about the internal communications that revealed doubts about MCAS and the decisions made to keep its true nature under wraps. The public learned that while families mourned the loss of their loved ones, billions of dollars in profits were being prioritized over safety measures. The company faced staggering fines, with penalties reaching into the billions, as well as an extensive settlement designed to compensate the victims' families and airline customers affected by the tragedies. I speak to you now not only as a narrator, but as someone deeply troubled by the imbalance between corporate power and public safety. How could a company entrusted with our lives in the air allow such critical oversights to occur? The legal battles, the public outcry, and the ongoing investigations serve as a stark reminder. In today's world, no corporation is above accountability. And while billions were paid in fines, the true cost was measured in lives lost and trust broken. Behind every statistic in this saga is a human story. A story of dreams deferred, of families torn apart, and of a collective grief that cannot be measured in dollars or numbers. When I talk about 189 lives lost on Lion Air Flight 610 or the 157 souls on board Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, I'm not referring to faceless statistics. These were fathers, mothers, children, and friends. Their stories are etched into the collective memory of everyone who values life and safety. I invite you to take a moment and imagine the faces behind the headlines. Picture a family gathering for a holiday, only to receive the devastating news that a loved one will never return. Think about the dreams that were cut short and the communities that will forever feel the absence of someone irreplaceable. These are not abstract numbers. They are real lives impacted by a series of decisions that prioritize profit over precaution. In sharing these stories, my goal is to honor the memory of those lost and to remind us all that safety in aviation isn't just a technical checklist, it's a moral imperative. Every time you board an airplane, you are placing your trust in an intricate system of engineering and regulation. And when that trust is betrayed, the repercussions ripple far beyond the cockpit. The 737 MAX disaster sent shockwaves throughout the global aviation industry. Airlines around the world were forced to ground fleets, reevaluate their safety protocols, and confront the reality that a trusted icon of modern flight had failed them. Regulators in the United States, Europe, and Asia scrambled to overhaul certification processes, demanding greater transparency and stricter oversight. In response to the crisis, Boeing undertook a comprehensive review of its design and certification practices. The company introduced significant software updates to the MCAS system, implemented additional sensor redundancies, and revised pilot training protocols to ensure that every operator fully understood the aircraft's behavior under all conditions. Yet, despite these efforts, rebuilding public confidence proved to be an uphill battle. I challenge you to think about what these changes mean for the future of aviation. The 737 MAX is slowly returning to service. The scars of the past remain. For many, the disaster has become a symbol of a broader problem in the industry, a problem where corporate interests and regulatory capture can sometimes overshadow the paramount need for safety. The lessons learned from this tragedy are not confined to Boeing. They ripple across the entire aerospace sector, forcing a hard look at how we balance innovation with accountability. Now let's take a step back and consider the broader implications of the 737 MAX scandal. At its core, this is a story about the ethics of innovation in a high-stakes industry. In our modern world, where technology evolves at breakneck speed, companies face immense pressure to push boundaries, reduce costs, and stay ahead of competitors. But what happens when these pressures lead to decisions that compromise safety? Boeing's experience with the MAX is a case study in the dangers of cutting corners in pursuit of market share. The decision to rely on a single sensor for a critical safety function, the deliberate omission of detailed information from pilot manuals, and the heavy reliance on self-certification are not isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a larger systemic issue. This issue is one where the drive for profit can, if left unchecked, erode the very foundations of trust and safety that are essential in aviation. For regulators, the MAX disaster has been a wake-up call. It has prompted a re-examination of how certification processes are structured and has led to calls for increased independence and rigor in oversight. For the industry, it's a lesson in humility. A reminder that even the most trusted institutions can falter when the balance between innovation and safety is lost. And for all of us, it serves as a stark reminder that every technological advance must be accompanied by an unwavering commitment to the well-being of people. I know you're with me, hanging on to every word, questioning how such a revered institution could let things spiral so disastrously out of control. I'm here to break the fourth wall and speak directly to you. I'm not just recounting history, I'm urging you to ask the hard questions. When did we, as a society, start accepting good enough when it comes to safety? How can we hold powerful corporations accountable when their decisions have such far-reaching consequences? Every time I revisit this story, I'm struck by the tension between human ambition and human error. The 737 MAX wasn't simply an airplane. It was a symbol of what happens when we allow financial pressures to override our moral responsibility to protect life. I want you to think about this next time you board a flight or see an aircraft soaring overhead. Ask yourself, is there enough oversight? Are the people in charge truly putting safety above all else? Because if we don't learn from these painful lessons, we risk repeating them. In the aftermath of the scandal, Boeing has embarked on a difficult journey toward redemption. The company has not only revamped its technical systems, but also its corporate culture. New management, stricter internal controls, and a commitment to transparency have been introduced in an effort to restore faith in one of the world's most iconic aerospace brands. Airlines, too, have learned valuable lessons. Training programs have been overhauled, and there is now a renewed emphasis on simulation exercises that mimic real-world scenarios, including the unexpected activation of systems like MCAS. Regulatory bodies across the globe are now more vigilant, demanding that every new innovation be subjected to exhaustive testing and independent review. This transformation, however, comes at a steep price. The financial repercussions for Boeing have been enormous, with billions paid in fines and settlements. Yet perhaps even more significant is the erosion of public trust, a trust that will take years, if not decades, to rebuild. As you watch the skies today, know that each flight represents not just a technological achievement, but also a hard-won lesson in accountability and the enduring value of human life. So what have we learned from the 737 MAX disaster? First, that safety in aviation is not just about advanced technology. It's about ethical decision-making and a culture that prioritizes human life above profit margins. Every bolt, every sensor, every line of code in an airplane is there for a reason. When we compromise on any one of these, the consequences can be catastrophic. Second, the scandal has exposed a critical flaw in our regulatory systems. The practice of self-certification, where companies are given the authority to police their own products, must be re-examined. Independent oversight is not just a bureaucratic formality. It's a safeguard against the inherent conflicts of interest that arise when financial incentives are allowed to dictate safety protocols. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, the human cost of this disaster cannot be overstated. Behind the headlines, behind the technical reports, there are lives that were cut short and families left in mourning. Every flight, every journey, every moment in the air is a reminder of the preciousness of life and the collective responsibility we share to ensure that such tragedies never happen again. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into one of the most unsettling chapters in aviation history. The story of Boeing's 737 MAX is more than a tale of technical failure. It is a testament to the importance of transparency, accountability, and the relentless pursuit of safety. As you reflect on what you've heard today, remember that our skies are a shared space, and every effort to improve safety is an investment in our future. I urge you to question, to learn, and to demand that the systems we trust with our lives are held to the highest standards. If you found this story as compelling and thought-provoking as I did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with friends and family because the lessons of the past are our best guide for the future. This is Freak Files channel that bring dark history and horror story to life via documentary. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and above all, remember, the truth isn't just out there, it's waiting for us to uncover it.